Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Hines on Air, your weekly dose of inspiration, motivation, and real-life entrepreneurial stories. I'm Matt Hines, your host, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey. From building a successful law firm to venturing into other industries like real estate and social media, I've experienced both the triumphs and the challenges that come with entrepreneurship. I've learned firsthand the importance of resilience, adaptability, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. On Hines on Air, we're diving deep into the world of business, law, and personal growth. Join me as I chat with incredible guests who have faced adversity, defied expectations, and achieved extraordinary success. We'll discuss their strategies, their mindset, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply someone looking for a little inspiration, Hines on Air is for you. Remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review whenever you listen to podcasts. Your support helps us reach more people and continue sharing these incredible stories. Let's get started.
We want to thank our sponsor, Bravos Leadership. Bravos Leadership is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and other business-minded people grow their companies and achieve their goals in life. They're having a major event on June 21st that's going to have some of the best business minds on the planet, including Grant Cardone. So get your tickets today.
Hey everybody, it is Matt Hines, back with another fabulous episode of Hines on Air. And today we're going to dissect a topic that I find confusing. Like, I've asked experts about this. I get different answers. And, this is a subject of diet, what to eat, what not to eat, how to be healthy. We've got an expert today, Miss Leah McGrath has joined us. And I'm hoping Leah can shed some light on this here because I find it confusing. Like, organic's good. And, well, that's not really organic. But eat gluten-free. But I'm not intolerant to gluten, so I should. But you really still should. There's so many questions from me. So if you can give us some direction in this, that'll be great, Leah. So thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. All right. It sounds like we've got a lot to get through in a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, that's always the case. That's all right. We'll make some headway, and we'll come back if we need to also. So all right. So you are a registered dietitian. You've been so since 1996, long time.
Right.
So when the word dietitian, what does that mean to you?
So that's a protected title in the United States. So, anybody can call themselves a nutritionist, but to become a registered dietitian, you have to have at least, now it's at least a master's degree. You have to be accepted to an internship program and complete 1,200 hours in supervised practice. I did mine with the U.S. Army. I became an officer and did my internship at the same time. And then you have to pass a nationally administered board exam, which is about 4 or 5 hour exam that you have to pass. And then you have to keep up continuing education on an annual basis. And then you have to be, if your state has licensure, like we do, I'm pretty sure Georgia has licensure, but I live in North Carolina, so I'm licensed in the state of North Carolina. So I have to do all those things to keep up my credentials as a registered dietitian. But somebody could call themselves a nutritionist or a nutrition coach, and they may not have any of those credentials or that experience or that licensure.
That's a hell of a resume. I mean, that's no joke, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a little bit of work.
It is a little bit of work.
It's not quite like being a lawyer, but
Actually, it is. I was comparing it as you were reading it off. I'm like, geez, she could be like 2 lawyers. Anyway, so well done and congrats to all that. But when we say dietitian, are we talking vitamins, minerals, food intake? Are we everything, or is it mainly food?
Well, that's a great question because dietitians can be all of those things. So dietitians can practice medical nutrition therapy. And they can do that in a hospital setting, like from the various tiniest babies in the NICU who are born super early and need very, very specialized nutrition to continue to grow, to dietitians working in a long-term care center who are trying to keep our elderly fed appropriately as they age, to people who are dietitians who are working with Olympic athletes, with the military, to school nutrition. And it can be a combination of food. It can be in some situations appropriate supplements for people depending on their diet. It can be dealing with people for performance nutrition. When I was a dietitian in the Army, I had patients that were interested, like active duty military, who were interested in basically what amounts to performance nutrition, which is like what an athlete would need. And then you can, so that you might need special supplements to supplement their diet, but not replace food. And then maybe you're a dietitian working with women who are pregnant, who need certain prenatal vitamins. So there's a lot of different spaces that dietitians can work. So many people just think of dietitians working in a hospital or in a school nutrition, but there are so many different spaces where dietitians work.
All right, so let me put you on the spot. I'm a potential client. I come to you and I was like, you know what, Leah, I don't have any energy during the day.
Right.
Where do you start with that? You take my blood? Do you take vitals, or what has it?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't see people. It's important to let people know that I don't see people individually because I work for Ingalls Markets. I don't do individual counseling, but I would refer you to somebody else. But normally, if you were to work with a dietitian and you're not coming to somebody with like a pre-existing condition, like you don't have diabetes or celiac disease or something like that, but you just feel like, gosh, I don't have a lot of energy, or I feel like maybe I need to fine tune my eating habits or improve my eating habits and see if that helps. Probably what most dietitians would do is sit down with you and kind of get an idea of what your lifestyle is like. How many hours a day are you working? Are you able to exercise and be active? What are your eating habits like right now? What kind of beverages are you drinking? Are you eating one meal a day? Are you snacking throughout the day? And then with that kind of information, they can look and assess your current eating habits, how those compare with what your nutritional needs are, depending on who you are, man, woman, how much you exercise, and say, look, looks like you may be eating not enough calories, you may be eating too many calories, or your calories are not kind of portioned out in a way that's really benefiting you. And maybe we need to put more calories towards fruits and vegetables and less calories towards, I don't know, fast food or sweets or something like that. So normally dietitians may look at lab work. You mentioned lab work, and maybe you had some recent lab work done by your family physician. They might take a look and see how your cholesterol looks, your blood sugar looks, things like thyroid, things like that. Normally, dietitians aren't necessarily ordering lab work. In some cases, they do.
Okay. There was a good friend of mine that she worked at a place, I forgot what state it was in. And you'd go to this place, and they would feed you what's called live food, which you may have heard of. It's food that is either just picked, and the enzymes are still active in the food. So it's very fresh, organic, very raw. And after people would do this program, I don't want to throw numbers around because it can attract negative attention from FDA and stuff, but they were really eliminating diabetes type 2, some forms of cancer. It was amazing. Like, it was miraculous type stuff. And again, I can't attest to it. I'll just kind of say as I understand it. How important do you think food is versus other causes of problems in the body? Because to me, when I hear issues, whether it's mental issues or energy issues or diseases and stuff, from what I've gathered, food is one of the main culprits, like big time. Do you agree with that statement, or what do you think?
Well, I think to back up to your original example, there could be so many different things going on in a situation like that. as you described, somebody who's being fed certain foods. So, unless you know the baseline where somebody was coming from, you really wouldn't be able to draw any kinds of conclusions about how that particular diet really benefited them. And then you have to be careful from an evidence and a science basis to not be sort of distracted by an anecdote or an N of one person or even 5 or 10 people. That's what's really difficult about nutrition research. There's a lot that goes into it. But to your point, nutrition is of course important, because if we're not consuming nutrients, we're dead, basically.
Right.
Or getting nutrients in some way, even if it's from a tube or through your veins. You have to have nutrition in order to live. What good nutrition looks like is very individual. So you mentioned earlier in the broadcast that, if somebody who can't eat gluten, for example, somebody with celiac disease has to be on a gluten-free diet that's medically necessary. So they can't have any products with wheat. Now, but somebody who doesn't have an issue with gluten, who can eat gluten just fine, wheat is a great source of vitamins and minerals and fibers, and they do very well with gluten. So a diet is very individual. There's really not one perfect diet for everybody on the planet. It really doesn't work that way.
Some of the programs that I've heard of recently, or heard from and read, give the impression that gluten is just bad. So you're saying that's not true?
No, it's not true. So gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye.
But it's added to it, right? Isn't it?
What?
Isn't it added to the stuff? It's not a naturally...
No, it's naturally in it. So gluten is it's actually, there's 2 different kinds of proteins that is called glutenin and gliadin. Is that right? I think that's right. And when they're actually processed and baked, they form the gluten structure, and that's what gives bread its structure. That's what gives pastas, any kinds of flours, its structure. It's gluten. It's naturally in wheat, barley, and rye. It's naturally there. All those foods have them, and foods can be it's not cross-contaminated, but get cross-contact if they come in contact with those. But no, gluten is naturally in those and always has been. People had celiac disease before the birth of Christ. So celiac disease has been around a long time.
What is that? What is celiac disease?
Celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder where people cannot absorb or process the gluten that's in wheat, and it causes them a lot of gastrointestinal problems and autoimmune issues. Like they may have early onset osteoporosis. They may have a lot of problems with their teeth, with dentition. They may have anemia. Maybe if it's children, they may not be growing properly. And it's really because their bodies are basically rejecting the gluten. But it's a very small percentage of the population that has that. I think the percentage is still probably less than 3%. It's higher among certain populations than other populations, like North American populations or Northern European populations that's higher.
Got it. That's not the only condition that would require a gluten-free diet, is it? Or is it?
Well, there's actually a skin condition which is related. It's called dermatitis herpetiformis. It's basically kind of like celiac disease that manifests itself on the skin with a lot of sores and rashes. But then if you have an allergy to wheat, you couldn't have gluten kind of by default because you're not eating wheat because you're allergic to it. So you can't have gluten-containing foods with wheat in them. So yeah, those are really the major ones. Then there's some conditions that have that people feel that they can't have gluten, but that's really the major one, is celiac disease and dermatitis herpetiformis.
Okay. I want to go back to something you said. You said earlier when we were talking about that organic, natural food type stuff. To me, that makes sense, even though without studying or knowing more. If you eat foods that are without pesticide, herbicide, poisons, all that, it's very fresh, it's organic, to me, all the good qualities or good things in food, it's a natural deduction that's probably going to be better for the body. You seem skeptical. Why is that?
Well, it's not that I'm skeptical. It's that I actually, I know organic farmers, and I've been kind of working in this space for a long time. So organic is the organic program in the United States, the organic certification, is a USDA program, Department of Agriculture, and it was started was probably late 1990s, I think, and it's part of the National Organic Program, which is a marketing program. So the organic farmers can use pesticides; they just have to use specific ones, and most of the pesticides, but not all of the pesticides, have to be naturally derived, natural does not mean better. It doesn't even mean less harmful or less dangerous. It just means they're from a natural source.
Yeah.
So even natural pesticides can be harmful. They can be harmful to us. They can be harmful to our pets. They can be harmful to insects. So organic is not an endorsement or any kind of certification for nutrition or health or food safety, and it doesn't mean pesticide free. It just means that they have certain practices that they have to follow to be certified as organic.
But that's USDA organic. Like that, we actually, it's funny because we had a podcast on this a couple of days ago when we went into this one, and the gentleman, doctor, he said, USDA organic is the lowest threshold. And then you've got many other certifications that are much more difficult. If you get USDA, that's good, but there's a lot more that you can look for on the packaging.
Well, USDA organic certification is the widest organic certification in the United States. And is probably, I'm not aware, there might be sort of niche organic certification programs, but that are by individual product, but they really are not. Those might be for an individual product, but they're not as widely used. And I don't know, I don't know what the benefit would be to kind of demean or, the organic certification program, unless it's to sell a more expensive certification program, honestly. Organic has a certain set of criteria. So in the United States, you can't claim something as organic unless you're following certain processes and certifications and have certain paperwork. So I'm not familiar with those programs. It might be a niche program for an individual product.
Well, to me, USDA doesn't always have the best reputation. To me, it's very misleading to say it's organic. Is it? Well, it's organic, but we still use pesticides, but only ones we approve of. Why did you approve of those? I would imagine the story behind those approvals are a little bit grafty, a little bit slippery.
What would make you think that they were grafty?
From what I've heard, and I apologize because I can't give you specific examples and stuff, but I know the USDA, some of the lawsuits and stuff that they've been involved in, when it got into the discovery process and the analysis of connections with corporations, different companies, and all that, they were not clean. I will stand by that, even though I can't cite the case. Now, I'd love to hear your response. Do you disagree?
We want to thank our sponsor, Bravos Leadership. Bravos Leadership is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and other business-minded people grow their companies and achieve their goals in life. They're having a major event on June 21st that's going to have some of the best business minds on the planet, including Grant Cardone. So get your tickets today.
Well, I like I said, I know plenty of organic farmers, and I know that they use pesticides, and I know that the type of pesticides that they are allowed to use. So that is, I mean, I'm not saying they always use pesticides. I'm not saying all organic farmers use pesticides, but I know which ones they can use. And I also know that the same pesticides organic farmers use, non-conventional or conventional farmers can use, but organic farmers can't use the same pesticides as conventional farmers use. So in effect, a farmer who is conventionally farming or non-organic has more tools in their toolbox to protect their crops than an organic farmer has.
Sure.
So, what I think that the organic marketing agencies have done a great job in convincing customers that their products, because they're organic, are somehow nutritionally superior. And that's not the case. There's minimal differences between them sometimes in some products and vitamins and minerals, but overall, there's no nutritional benefit to buying organic food rather than non-organic food.
Really? That's a big one. I don't know. Certainly you know more than me. I will concede that. But
I don't know. I don't know law, but I do know nutrition.
Okay.
So
I don't know. Okay. I'd have to research. I'd love to come back because that flies in the face of everything I've been taught and believe. Now, maybe I believed it for the wrong reason, but to me, it just makes sense. If you don't put a poison in a food and you serve it to a child, it's healthier.
Well,
it's just that basic.
Well, and I would probably back up, since, you of anybody probably really values the importance of using particular words. When we talk about poison, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the dose makes the poison, right? You've heard that phrase.
I understand. I've never heard it, but it makes sense.
It's from, it was an ancient Greek writer, Paracelsus.
Oh, I know. I've read him.
So, it says the dose makes the poison. So, well, I prefer to talk about things like pesticides, which are herbicides, and insecticides, as crop protectants. So have you ever had a garden in your home, like a garden in your backyard, or did you grow up with a garden?
I have. I did not really, but I understand.
So, if you have a farm is basically a home garden on steroids. It's huge, right? You're talking about hundreds of acres, or in some cases, thousands of acres. So if I have my home garden here in my backyard and I'm kind of looking out the window and I have some blueberry bushes and some tomato bushes, I can pretty easily go out and pick off a bug or a worm if I need to. But if you have thousands of acres or hundreds of acres, it's very difficult to do that. You can't. You don't have the labor, you don't have the time to send people out in the fields to pick off bugs. So in order to protect your crops so that you have crops that you can sell or eat for your own family, you use crop protectants, and whether those are insecticides or herbicides, something like that. So, but as a farmer, they are really interested in how to maximize their profit by minimizing how much they have to interact with those crops, so that they're not out in the field spraying on a regular basis, so that they are protecting their crops and have the best looking crops as possible, so they can sell them to supermarkets, farmers markets, food co-ops, whoever they're selling them to. Because nobody, or very few people, want to buy something that has worms in it, or bugs have eaten it, or you can't sell it if it has fungus or mold growing on it. So herbicides are only poison to the intended host, right? So farmers are not going to put things on that are meant to poison their customers.
I don't know about all of that.
What farmers do you know want to poison their customers?
Anyone using Monsanto, all that crap. I mean, No,
So
they don't want
Monsanto,
to. I don't think they want to. I hope they're not murderers, but I would think that if the profit pushes them far enough, they'll do it.
so Monsanto is no longer. That company went away, what, 8 years ago,
No, they
9
were
years
just
ago?
sued. Maybe the lawsuit has continued on since then.
No, so Monsanto was bought by Bayer. Yeah, they are going through lawsuits for glyphosate, which is Roundup, which you can buy at Ingles or you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. So it's the most widely used herbicide in the world, actually. And it's probably one of the least dangerous ones. Now, with any kind of crop protectant you use, you have to protect yourself if you're applying it, because you can't just go out and if you have weeds in your driveway and you pick up a container of Roundup, it's not owned by Monsanto anymore. It has like, here's what you need to do to protect yourself. You don't spray weed killer when the wind's blowing in your direction. You wear gloves, you wear eye protection, whatever it says on the container.
Right. But here's the thing. If you've got to take that much protection because it might hurt you, does it not make sense that in your food might be a problem?
Well, it's not going to be in your food. So first, what happens with any kind of crop protectant is they have what's called a re-entry time. So, and this is still the case with organic pesticides. So every pesticide has spray intervals and re-entry time. So if you were a farmer and say you had a tomato or a vineyard and you wanted to protect it from some sort of mildew or mold, you would spray it so that you didn't damage your tomatoes or your grapes. And then it would say, like, you cannot harvest that food for X amount of time because it would dissipate through rain and through sunshine. So that by the time it could be 48 hours, it could be 3 weeks. And then you're allowed to harvest it, or then you're allowed to come back into the fields again. So by the time that item, we'll say a tomato, is picked, it's washed, it's processed, the amount of pesticides on it is to the parts per billion. So, and that's tested by the FDA, the EPA, USDA annually. So you can look up those reports up for yourself online, and they usually test like samples throughout, I don't know if it's throughout the year, at least once a year. They publish those reports, are open to the public. You can see how many samples tested above acceptable rates. And for the most part, like 99% of fruit and vegetables tests don't even test close to any kind of rate of concern. And, and then I can send you a calculator that shows you how much you would have to eat to get any kind of harmful level of pesticides, even at the highest amounts found on items.
Okay, I understood. Let me ask you this. So Bobby Kennedy, I'm sure you've heard this name plenty of times, says...
Bobby Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr.?
Yeah, RFK Jr., sorry. Bobby Kennedy, I refer to him like I know him. We're not buddies. And anyway, RFK Jr., Health and Human Services, says that, I'm going to screw these numbers up, but let's say 100 years ago, 200 years ago, like 1 in 30,000 people had some sort of a health condition. Now it's more like 1 in 100 or even less. I mean, more of a percentage. Without a doubt, it's dramatically changed and much more people are affected by some sort of health condition. He relates it to food, and a lot of other people do. Do you disagree with that? I didn't actually intend on getting in here and talking about this, but this is where it's gone. I am a firm believer in what he says, but I'd love to hear if you have an opposing side.
Okay, so 100 years ago, how long what was the average lifespan of somebody 100 years ago?
67-ish.
I think it was probably less than that. It's probably 54 or something like that. What's the average lifespan now? in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So, how much access do you think people had 100 years ago to preventive health care, to screenings, to physicians, and to hospitals compared to now?
Much less access.
Right.
Well, but why did it drop? Okay,
So
go ahead.
what happens when you have people living to an older age, people with more access to preventive health care, people with more access to regular screenings, to blood tests, to hospitals, and to doctors? Then you have more documented cases of diseases and illnesses.
Okay. That's a good. I don't agree. I would think if you got more access, more doctors, more training, more medicine, more all that, the rates should go down. Not. It's
why? No, it's just like you're. What was the example? All right. So if you go out in your backyard at night and look up into the sky, how many stars do you see?
A lot.
How many stars do you see if you have a telescope?
Yeah.
A lot more.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. If you have better tools to look at a situation, you're going to see more of actually what's going on. And that's really what's happened. I mean, 100 years ago, this is what's called an appeal to nature or appeal to tradition, logical fallacy. If you, like my grandmother, my grandmother was born in 1900, more than 100 years ago, right? So would she have had access to mangoes or papayas or kale or arugula? No. Would she have only had access to seasonal fruits and vegetables? Yes. So our lives are totally different now. You have in your pocket, for 8-10 hours a day, basically what amounts to a computer. Our grandparents and great grandparents didn't have access to that. I mean, we can't.
But that doesn't. If that's but it would naturally follow then that the rates would increase. I mean, you're saying if they didn't have the computers in their pocket, but we do now. Are you saying that's contributing to the higher rate of illness or what?
I'm just saying we're very quick to accept the advances of technology in some areas of our lives, whether it's hybrid or electric cars or computers or cell phones, but we are very romantic about things like food when we've forgotten how far we've come from food deprivation, lack of food, only having seasonal available food 100 years ago. If you sit down and talk to somebody who's 80 or 90 years old, and I've done this, and ask them what food was like, they will tell you about hungry times of the year when there wasn't a lot of food. I mean,
they've been through depression and all. Hey, let me go back real quick to organic, because you said it first. I don't think there's any difference between organic and non-organic. If I misquote you, please correct. But I thought that's what you said. And then you said that, well, when you have these big crops, you have to do something to make sure that the bugs and other things don't get on them. I get that. But that doesn't necessarily mean organics less or the same amount of healthiness. Like, do you think, so you stand by there's no difference between organic and non-organic?
I think there can be differences in different crops and different years. I mean, there's even differences between organic isn't just one thing. It's, it depends on like the nutritional content of a specific, we take a certain fruit or vegetable is going to be very slightly different from year to year, from season to season, from field to field, from region to region. So, there can be, you can't say there's going to be no difference. There's going to be very slight differences in vitamin, mineral content, but there's no nutritional advantage for you to go out and buy everything organic. I don't recommend that as a dietitian. I think there's definitely a cost difference.
That is. I won't argue with you on that. This crazy cost difference. They've got us there. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. I was just
no,
agreeing
and
with
there's and it's actually, I mean, there's actually studies that show that when people are under the impression, especially people who have less economic means, are under the impression that they have to buy organic because it's better for them, they end up not eating fruits and vegetables at all, which is worse for them.
Okay. Well, I guess I would say, certainly, there's one example for my baby. I want them having organic milk. I don't want them having, when I hear herbicide, pesticide, that is something that's designed to kill a living organism, whether it's a insect or whether it's a this or that. It is a type of killer. And
Do
to
you
think
eat
that
chocolate?
couldn't kill a human cell or of some level, to me, I get you say it's already gone by the time it's consumed. I don't know.
Do you eat chocolate?
I do. A little too much of it.
Chocolate would kill your dog.
I've heard that. I do avoid it. He's stolen it before and he didn't die.
Well, we have big dogs, but they'd have to eat a lot of them.
Yeah.
But the theobromine in chocolate will kill your dog. It won't kill you. So something that might kill an insect is not going to kill you. So you really have to think about that in perspective.
It could kill a cell, right? Or it could kill the good bacteria in the stomach or something. Maybe not the body, but things.
Your cells die all the time. I mean, that's part of our natural process. Cells die all the time. We're not born with one set of cells that only ever stay in our body. We continuously manufacture cells all of the time. So I would have no concern about giving a child or a milk that's not organic. I would have, that would not be of a concern for me. But, it's your child, and, you have to make those decisions for yourself based on whatever criteria that you're using that's of importance to you. The bigger picture is, as long as your child is getting the right total amount of nutrients, that's awesome.
Yeah, sure. I would agree with you there. Certainly. I don't think they get enough protein sometimes. There's for whatever reason. But anyway, okay. Well, listen, I enjoyed talking with you.
You too.
And I want to encourage the audience. We had some friendly debate here about organic versus non-organic versus whether food source is a serious problem or not. So I would love to hear in the comments what you think. Let us know your experiences, any advice you have, whatever. Please let us know. But anyway, Leah, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure speaking.
You're welcome.
All
Bye.
right. Do you have, I was about to let people go to your website, but right now you're working directly with Ingalls. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can go to ingalls-markets.com and click on the Dietitian tab or the Wellness tab, and they can send me an email or a message.
Check. All right. Well, Leah, thanks again. And everybody else, thank you so much for joining again. Please like this video, share it with your friends, and comment. So important. Let us know what you think. And lastly, I want to thank our sponsor, that is Bravos Leadership. Bravos Leadership. They have a tremendous event coming up June 21st. They're sponsoring some great speakers. Grant Cardone is one of the speakers, as well as other fabulous speakers talking about AI, influencing on social media, fitness, and other fabulous things. So thank you, Bravos Leadership. And to everybody else, thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you on the next Hines on Air.
This program is being sponsored by Law Offices of Matthew C. Hines. The Law Offices of Matthew C. Hines helped all individuals who have been involved in a car accident, who have been injured at work, or have been arrested or given tickets. We make sure your rights are protected and that you receive all the benefits allowed under the law. Visit us at www.hineslaw.org, hineslaw.org.
Hines on Air is for you. Remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review whenever you listen to podcasts. Your support helps us reach more people and continue sharing these incredible stories.